Thursday, 14th of March. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Vedadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We discussed in Canto 1, the creation, Chapter 4, the appearance of Sri Nārada Muni, and verse number 11. We'll start with verse 10. Just read the translation of verse 10. And this is the description of Parīkṣit Maharaj and the sages of Naimisharanya through Saunaka Rishi. They're asking Suta Goswami that in spite of having all the things good happening for Parīkṣit Maharaj, why did he do what he did? Why did he go to the bank of Ganga and fast until death? So verse number 10, he was a great emperor and possessed all the opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of the Ganges and fast until death? Now, before we proceed to the next verse, and of course, description of this verse, yesterday there was a question asked by Vinod Prabhu about the charity aspect. And as we said, we'll discuss it today. So, yes, the difference between giving charity to anyone needy materially or to give charity to a Krishna conscious project. So as we said that in the end of Bhagavad Gita, in the 17th chapter, the divisions of faith, Krishna actually describes the three types of charities. So what are these three types of charities Krishna describes? The first one is the charity in the mode of goodness. So Krishna says, charity which is given out of duty, number one, without expectation of return, and at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person, is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Of course, so before we, just when we're going, in somewhere in India or any other place, and, we, wind down our windows and give some charity, or, give charity to someone who's asking us, we should actually try to find out that, yes, are we giving to a proper place, at a proper place, proper time, proper person. And Prabhupada in the purport, he explains very nicely that charity must be given out of duty, yes. And Prabhupada says, charity given to a person engaged in spiritual activities is recommended. There's no recommendation for giving charity indiscriminately. We should, of course, be discriminating in giving the charity. And Prabhupada says, spiritual perfection is always a consideration. Spiritual perfection is always a consideration. And then Prabhupada, of course, goes on to give more details in that purport. The whole point is that Prabhupada himself, I think it was in Jhansi, if someone may correct me if I'm wrong, he put an advertisement in the newspaper that anyone who wants to, be with us or join us will be given free food, free clothing, and free shelter, as long as you want to stay there. And the ad was repeated a couple of times, and then, not to his surprise, but to everyone else's surprise, not one person came. Even though free food, free shelter, and free clothes were given for someone who joins Krishna consciousness. So when we give charity to other causes, what happens is, yes, when we also give charity according to what this 20th verse of 17th chapter in Bhagavad Gita says, we are still binding ourselves, because we are doing it in the mode of goodness, and we have to come back to fulfill that reaction of our action of charity and mode of goodness. But when we are, the basic teachings of Bhagavad Gita is you are not the body, you are the soul. So Bhagavad Gita takes us from the level of aham mameti, me and mine, to aham brahmasmi, that I am the spirit soul. And when we start understanding this, when we have full faith in this concept, then everything what we'll do will be doing on the platform of soul. Again, as we see that if we give, forget devotional service, forget, we know anything about Bhagavad Gita and all that. But still, if we give charity out of, mode of goodness, we understand every action is equal and opposite reaction. So we'll have to come back to get the reaction. So why do you want to take the risk of coming back? But if we give charity in spiritual places, especially where Krishna consciousness is propagated, then we achieve perfection, or we at least progress towards perfection. So that's the charity. Krishna, of course, goes on to say that charity performed with expectation of return, or with a desire for fruitive results, or in a grudging mood, is said to be charity in the mode of passion. And then he says charity performed at an impure place, at an improper time, to unworthy persons, or without proper attention and respect, is said to be in mode of ignorance. So most times when we give charity without considering these things, it will be either in the mode of ignorance or mode of passion, and that will actually accrue worse results than in the mode of goodness. So I hope that answers the question, Prabhu. I'll give you one more thing. It is not that charity should not be given. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, once he was going with his disciples in Vrindavan on a parikrama, and his disciples also were thinking that we should give charity only to Krishna conscious places. And there were some some people on the road asking for charity in Vrindavan, and when his disciples, they did not give any charity, he stopped them and he said, giving charity by a grihastha is a must. Why? Because he says when we give charity, our possessiveness with our possessions decreases. So, to become detached from our possessions, also one of the reasons that we must give charity. So I hope that answers your question, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we get back to our study. 1.4.11 we go to. Namanti yatpaduniketam atmanah shivaya hani adhanani shatravah katham savira shriyamanga yuvai satostroshtumoho sahashubhihi. Does anyone want to read the word to word in translation, please? 1.4.11.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I can read.
Okay.
Namanti, bow down, yat pad, whose feet, niketam, under, atmanaha, own, shivaya, welfare, hanya, used to bring about, dhanani, wealth, satravaha, enemies, katham, for what reason, sah, he, viraha, the, chivalrous, shriyam, chivalrous, shriyam, opulences, anga, o, dushtya, jam, insuperable, yuva, in full youth, aisata, desired, uts, rastam, to give up, aho, exclamation, saha, with, asubhi, life.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mataji, please go ahead with the translation.
Yes, please. He was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed insuperable kingly opulences. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life?
Yeah, so the sages are asking this question. Now, also when I was meditating on these verses, I was thinking that when we hear these qualities of these glorious devotees, what change should come into our hearts? As we progress in bhakti, as we know, slowly our habits will change, our activities will change, our grocery shopping will change, our pictures on the walls will change. And when we take initiation, the names will change. All these things will change, yes, and they have changed for many of us. But understanding the qualities of these devotees, our hearts must change. And when we see that our hearts are not changing, then we have to introspect and consult some senior devotees. And this is a very personal matter, because no one from outside can tell you. We can pretend for a long time that, yes, I'm progressing nicely, I'm chanting my rounds, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But what is happening within us, only we will know, and Krishna knows. So for us, our hearts must change. And we see that Parīkṣit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami, both very opposites in the spectrum. One is a prince and an emperor, and he in the previous verse he was described as Abhimanyu Sutaha, and then he was described as he's increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. So Abhimanyu himself was a glorious personality. He just went inside the Chakravyuha. He was fighting the war. He was a young person. He was in his prime age of youth. But just to follow Krishna's orders, same like his father Arjun. Arjun gave so many reasons, 5 reasons why not to fight. And all of them were based on, very high moral principles. But of course, they were on bodily platform. But just to follow Krishna, they gave up their own thinking, their own principles. Why? Just to follow Krishna. Krishna has said this must happen. Parīkṣit Maharaj also, before he renounced, he thought to himself that this is the plan of the providence with a capital P, that's Krishna, and I must follow that. So he gave up everything. So for us also, we should also introspect from time to time, especially Ekadashi is the time to introspect, that our hearts are changing. So here in the purport, Prabhupada says that yes, this Parīkṣit Maharaj was a great emperor. He was a young man. He could enjoy life with power and opulence. Now just imagine to give up everything when you are in the prime of your material life, in your youth, you've got everything going with you. Parīkṣit Maharaj was such a king that everything was going on with him. His enemies were bowing down to him. Prabhupada says that there was enough milk, grains, and metals, and all rivers and mountains were full of potency. So materially, everything was satisfactory. So the sages wanted to hear that when everything was going for him, why did he give up everything, including his life? And we should also introspect that, yes, everything is going nicely. Krishna has given us everything. Can I give up some things to Krishna, if not my whole life? Actually, we should give up whole life. And a time will come and slowly nothing, the body will come to a stage where, we won't be able to enjoy anything materially. So as they say, instead of giving stale flowers, we offer fresh flowers. Instead of offering stale bhoga, we offer fresh bhoga. So instead of offering a stale life, why can't we offer fresh life to Krishna? So let's move on to 1.4.12, unless if there's any reflections or questions from 1.4.11.
Can I ask you a question quickly?
Yes, please.
In this particular translation, it is said that why did he want to give up everything, including his own life?
Yes.
And then we hear pastimes like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Srila Sanatana Goswami, when he's struggling with that skin disease, he wanted to give up his life. And that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that this body does not belong to you. So how do we, even this body does not belong to you, so you cannot give it up. So how do we build a connection? Like, is there something obvious that I'm missing out?
So the context is different in both cases. In this one, because he was cursed by a Brahmana, and to uphold the curse of Brahmana, Parīkṣit Maharaj, said yes, he could have counter-cursed, but he did not. Parīkṣit Maharaj was equally powerful, but he also knew that the time for Kali has come. So there were many factors. Number one is that he did not want to, let the word of a young Brahmana go in vain. Second is he knew that the time of Kali has come. Third was he knew that he wanted to become, he was to become an instrument for Bhagavatam to be spoken. In the case of Sanatana Goswami, he wanted to give up his life, of course, for a higher principle, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a much higher principle for him. And if we have read the pastime, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually embraced him. Even when his Sanatana Goswami's body was full of pus and blood, and things were coming out of his body, out of the pores of his wounds. But so in that case, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing that I have a plan. And here also Parīkṣit Maharaj is saying, Krishna, you have a plan, I will adhere to the plan. So for us, we should know what is the plan of Krishna for us, and we should adhere to that plan. And because we cannot speak to Krishna, we should speak to the spiritual master and the senior devotees, the senior Vaishnavas who are in our lives, and we can find out what is the plan for me. And many times, even when we do services, yes, we want to do service what I like to do, but if we understand that what service is required in the overall context of the situation, we should try to follow that. Does it make sense?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Yeah. And sometimes even when we answer a question, if you are 50% satisfied, you can say, Prabhu, 50% satisfied, 40% satisfied. Then we can come up with probably some more angles. Okay, so
Completely satisfied.
thank you. 1:4:12. Shivasya lokasya bhavaya bhutaye ya uttama shloka parayana janah jivanti natmarthamashav parashrayam mumocha nirvidya kuta kalevaram. Does anyone want to read the word to word and translation, please?
Yes, Prabhu.
Go ahead.
Sevya, welfare, lokasya of all living beings, avayaya for flourishing, bhutaya for economic development, ye one who is uttama saloka parayanaha, devoted to the cause of the prosperity of Godhead, jana, men, jivanti, do live, na, but not, atma artham, selfish interest, asayu, that, parasharyayam, shelter for others, mumocha, gave up, nirvidya, being freed from all attachment, kutaha, for what reason, kela, varam, mortal body. Translation also, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So even though the emperor Parīkṣit was free from all attachment to the worldly possession, how could he give up his mortal body, which was a shelter for others?
Thank you, Prabhu. So here the sages, Shaunak Rishi is asking from a higher principle. That okay, Parīkṣit Maharaj, maybe he was having all the opulences, maybe understood that, he got detached and he wanted to, just give up everything. But here the sages are asking another question, that yes, he was, even when he was a king and when he was ruling, he was never having any selfish interest. Because when we study the life of Parīkṣit Maharaj, first of all, he was saved by the Lord himself. That's why, as we discussed before, he was called Vishnu Rata. And from the childhood, like Prahlad Maharaj, he was never interested in any of the games or anything with his friends. He was always interested in worshipping the Lord and always protecting of his praja. And then we also see, it will come in the Bhagavatam, that he was such a selfless person that he was not someone who was just going to enjoy his kingly opulences, but he will go around his kingdom and make sure that no injustice is done to any of the people, that everyone is being happy both materially and spiritually. So the sages are asking question that even when he was living such a selfless life for the benefit of others, for the welfare, development, happiness of others, how could he give up his mortal body, which was the shelter for others? So again, Sneha Mataji, there's a connection between the question you asked coincidentally and this verse. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to utilize Sanatana Goswami's body in the service of mankind and mankind coming in future. So same question is being asked here, and Bhagavatam will unpack this mystery very shortly. So Prabhupada says, Parīkṣit Maharaj was an ideal king and householder because he was a devotee of the personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada has a cause and effect relationship here, that he was an ideal king and an ideal householder. Why? Because he was a devotee of the personality of Godhead. So if we want to become an ideal householder, we should become devotee of Krishna. And then Prabhupada says, a devotee of the Lord automatically has all good qualifications. So this is a very, very beautiful, very popular, very famous verse in the 5th canto of Srīmad Bhāgavatam. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate shura harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manorathe nasati dhavato bhahi. Very beautiful verse where Prahlad Maharaj is, glorifying the devotional qualities of the devotees, and he is praising Narasimhadev that yes, yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana, that whosoever is having devotional service to who? Bhagavati, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and akinchana means without any motive. So if we are having unconditional devotion to the Lord, what happens is sarvair gunais tatra samasate sura. So sura means the devatas. So any of the qualities, the godly qualities, we will get automatically. We will automatically get all the godly qualities. Harav abhaktasya. But if you are a bhakta of who? Hari, of Harav, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if you are not a devotee, kuto mahadguna, that where are all the good qualities? Even if you have all the material qualities, but if you are not a devotee of the Lord, there will not be any good qualities. Manorathe, why? Because you will use all your material qualities in just mental speculation in this temporary material world. Manorathe nasati dhavato bahi, that you will just be running behind all these material possessions based on your mental speculation. So when we understand this verse, that by becoming devotee, automatically all the qualities of the devatas, of all the godly qualities, will come to us. But Mahatma Prabhu very nicely explains the other side of the coin also. Yes, when we join Krishna consciousness, we think by chanting Hare Krishna, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, automatically everything will happen. But as I mentioned, we have to do introspection also. Sometimes what happens is that our conditioning is very, 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 very strong. And even though we are progressing in bhakti, but because the faith in bhakti is not that strong as our conditioning, slowly, if we do not introspect and if we do not work on our conditioning, even though we are progressing in bhakti, the conditioning will at one point of time be overtaking the bhakti. We have to be very careful of this. I'm not saying it will happen in every case, but we have seen many times when the devotees come, join the movement, are very enthusiastic in the beginning, and slowly you will see, they'll be performing devotional service. Prabhu, I'm chanting 64 rounds, I'm doing this, I am fasting on this day, I'm doing this, so much books I'm distributing, so many devotional services they're doing. But if we do not work on our conditioning, and if we do not understand that while I'm progressing in bhakti, I should also be working on my conditioning side by side. A time might come. I'm not saying a time will come, but a time might come where our conditioning might take over our bhakti. So we have to be very careful that we should watch our progress on a regular basis. I know one devotee at the end of the year when Christmas comes, he introspects 4 or 5 things in his life. First of all, he sees that how is my sadhana going? And then sadhana, where did I fall back on? Did I fall back on my quality of chanting? Did I fall back on quantity of my chanting? Did I fall back on my study of Srīmad Bhāgavatam or my Bhagavad Gita? How's my sadhana going? Second is how's my service going? Because sadhana and service, as we know, they go together. When we chant Hare Krishna, we ask for service, and when service comes, we do service nicely, and then our chanting becomes better. So he says, how is my service going? Third, he sees, how is my health going? Is the health going okay? Have I sacrificed too much on health? Fourth, he sees that how is my means of livelihood going? Whatever my means of livelihood, how is it going? No, before that actually sees, how is my family going? My family, is everyone happy, emotionally, materially, spiritually, socially? Are they all happy? And fifth he sees is that how is my means of livelihood going? Am I so am I balancing all these things and I'm progressing nicely? So sadhana, service, his health, the family, and the means of occupation, the means of livelihood. So when we see these things going, introspect on these things going nicely, then we can also see that in the long run, our bhakti also is going to progress, and we will be able to contribute more and more to Prabhupada's mission. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that someone who says that if I neglect my material condition and then I can progress spiritually, that's not going to happen. He's under illusion. So we have to also, not that we just take care of our material situation so much that we don't have time for our spiritual growth, but we should see and introspect on these things. And as this is a classic example of Kadam Karan Maharaj giving us the example of a juggler, that we juggle all these different aspects of existence in our life, and then we introspect, and sometimes we give importance to our sadhana, sometimes to seva, sometimes to health, but overall progress must be maintained. So even though all the qualities are going to the godly qualities are going to come to us, but still we must be very careful because we are not that advanced in our spiritual life as of now. So Prabhupada in this purport, in the purport to verse 12, he goes on to say how Parīkṣit Maharaj, he was concerned about the all-around welfare of his citizens, and he was always busy in the welfare of the public, not only for his own life. He would not allow things which are detrimental to the progress of both material and spiritual progress of his subjects. And then Prabhupada says, the king is the representative of the Supreme Lord, and therefore the king's interest must be identical with that of the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, in the Vibhuti Yoga, 10th chapter, Krishna says that among the men, I am the monarch. So the monarch represents Krishna. So for us, the head of the state should represent Krishna. Of course, that is not the case in the modern society. But if you understand that Parīkṣit Maharaj, because he was representing the Lord, he was making sure that he was not interested in his own self. Prabhupada says self-centered or self-extended. So that means me and mine. No, he was not interested in that. He was interested in making sure that his subjects were both materially and spiritually progressing. And that's why the land was giving enough grains, milk, fruits, and vegetables, so everyone can be happy and fed sumptuously to their heart contents. Prabhupada ends his purport with, Emperor Parīkṣit was a worthy king, and therefore all were happy during his reign. And the question still remains that even then everything was going nicely, both materially and spiritually, why did he do what he did? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Granth Srīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments or reflections, please unmute yourself and share for the benefit of everyone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any political leader who is into Krishna consciousness and performing the activities whom we can follow?
You mean now?
Yeah, that's right, Prabhu.
Now, unfortunately, there's no one. Prabhupada actually, he encouraged the devotees in the beginning. Not encourage, I won't use the word encourage, but there was one devotee here locally, Sabhapati Prabhu. He actually wanted to enter politics. And Prabhupada said, yes, you can try, but for us, the main business is to become Vaishnavas, not Kshatriyas. So he said, if one of the devotees become a leader, we can change the society. And of course, little bits and pieces you see, like one of the, I think Kamala Harris promoted Bhagavad Gita, and then in India, Narendra Modi is also trying to do something. To some extent they're doing, but a proper Vaishnava. Sorry?
Sunak is also follower of ISKCON.
Yes. So, they're following, they're just, but you never know whether it is for the political gain or for actual spreading of, we can give them benefit of doubt and say, yes, they are helping us, but, we can take example. And when we understand that what we are studying also is history of what has happened in the past, we can actually get inspiration from the leaders of the past. Not to say that even the current leaders in ISKCON, maybe they are not politically active, but when they are taking care of the devotees within their reign, within their society, within their community, we can follow their examples. One example comes to my mind is the Shruti Dharma Prabhu. Shruti Dharma Prabhu, he was the temple president of Manor for 25 years in England, in London. And he was an ideal leader. If you, one day when we meet personally, Prabhu, I'll be happy to explain you the glories of Shruti Dharma Prabhu, and we can take lessons from his life. He, of course, left his body a few years ago, but he was an amazing leader.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. So we are about time. Sorry, next time I'll finish 1 minute early so that we have time for some more reflections and questions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Srīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. You have a wonderful, glorious day, devotional day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, 6:30, Krishna willing. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.